Hello and welcome to another example palm reading. If you haven't seen my videos before, my name is Sari and I often do these example palm readings. Today we are talking about some challenge lines, split lines, some sister lines along the lifeline, Mars line, tiny bit about the health line, the girdle of Venus, and there is also a kind of a fish sign on this hand. So I'm going to bring you up a picture and we shall start explaining some of these lines. We'll start with these, what I call challenge lines. Challenge lines can literally be anywhere on the hand because they are lines that intercept and clash with other lines. In this area here at the end of the headline, I might draw it on for you. We've got these challenge lines. They're called challenge lines because they come from the area of the Mars mount, which is this area here. And these challenge lines are at the end of her headline. Now, she also has some challenge lines across her top of her palm. They tend to form like a fish sign. I'll talk about that soon. But firstly, we're going to talk about these challenge lines that are at the end of her headline. What happens here is it's like energy that is scattered at the end of her headline. The headline is this line that goes across the palm and hers ends at those challenge lines. And she also has a fork, which makes it confusing. And her fork has a fork. So she has many split lines coming at the end of her headline, and all of these split lines are showing energy of the mind escaping. So they are challenge lines. Some people do call them enemy lines. They can be challenges that come from other people that affect the person's mind, or they can be the person's own challenges, like obstacles that the person might make up themselves. And these are common in people who tend to overthink too much, and they might even have trouble sleeping. They might have insomnia or things like that. The mind is just not quite relaxed. So they are literally just obstacle lines at the end of the headline. And the fork that she has gives her the ability to see like two sides of the situation. It's quite a large fork, so she might have a slight split personality. She might have two sides to her personality, and she might also change her mind often. So for instance, if you think about the lines as a thought, energy of thought, so the thought runs along one line but then might change her mind and then suddenly runs along another, and that gives her the creative kind of a mind. So that's why they call these the writer's fork, because the writer is practical and creative, because they're practical in their writing, creative in their mind. Doesn't mean that you're a writer if you have this writer's fork. It just shows that duality in the personality. Now, having a fork in the fork just adds another layer to the character. So you could say anywhere there's a line is split, then the meaning of the line is also split. So being a headline, we're talking about the mind, and it splits into two, so the mind has the ability to split into two. So like I said, duality could be a strong case here in the personality. If you follow these challenge lines along, I'll change it back to red. It's not going to red. If we follow these challenge lines along, the energy for them tends to come from the worry lines. There are many worry lines, and she's obviously a person who worries quite a lot. So this is, in my opinion, a challenge that comes from within herself due to her overthinking and worrying too much. And it is potentially affecting her mind or giving her obstacles in her mind. Now going back up here to this mess of lines that she has up the top, it is not your usual girdle of Venus, but more like an extra floating heart line. But these lines are a part of a variation of a girdle of Venus. Some palm readers call it the Mirage Line, and they often tend to reach all the way to the marriage lines down the side here. But in this case, they're not really connected. But in between, she has this, what looks like a fish sign, because the lines tend to make this fish formation. And she has a couple of other lines in the middle as well. So it kind of looks like a fish sign, but it is just more of those challenge lines. It's the same meaning as these challenge lines at the end of the headline. She has them at the end of her marriage line, and crossing all the way over the top of her hand in the way that they do, they form obstacles in a way that she might be overly emotional, she might be too sensitive, or she might be overthinking things in general. If we look at the fish sign by itself, a sideways fish sign is a mark that gives a person a peaceful life or a successful life throughout the whole life. And I don't mean successful as in they're definitely going to be rich, that kind of successful. I mean that on a personal level, the person throughout their life feels happy about their choices in life. But in saying that, I don't really agree with just looking at symbols, because I am a modern palm reader. So to me, it is not a fish sign, but the challenge lines. And they will probably be regarding the relationships, and it's over the girdle, connecting to the girdle of Venus, showing sensitivity, nervousness, a highly, like a highly strung kind of a personality. And if you are interested in that girdle of Venus some more, or about the floating heart line, if you don't have a heart line, which is this line here in the blue that I'm marking, if you don't have that line, often there is instead like a floating heart line similar to what I've marked in the red up here. So I have an article on that on my website. Go to www.destinypalmistry, DESTINY, palmistry.com. In there I have a search bar. You can type in Girdle of Venus and you will get all my articles regarding the Girdle of Venus, including this type of floating Mirage Line. Okay, there's one more thing she's asked me to have a look at, and I shall bring a different picture. It's the same hand, but she's asking about the Mars line and these parallel lines that she has. And so these are supporting lines to the lifeline. They're sister lines. The lifeline is the one that wraps around the ball of the thumb. And if you have these sister lines, they are supporting energy. So they can show like a strength in the character. If it's at the start, this part of the line, at the start of the lifeline, that shows someone who, especially in the early years, had a lot of support, and they're a born fighter. They show a lot of courage. So it shows a lot of support from family. All of these lines show support either from family or maybe guardian angels, spirit guides. And also having these lines tends to give the personality somebody with the inner spiritual awareness. They tend to have like an awareness of their own sense of strength. Like they tend to know that everything's always going to be all right. Also, many palm readers believe that these lines show protection, like from illness, things like that. Now, she does have a strong health line here. Her health line starts from almost at the lifeline and rises towards the line of Mercury. Now, what that means is when you have a health line, you tend to be very aware of your body. So if something is going wrong, you're probably going to be aware of it. Someone who doesn't have this line, they're more likely to be surprised by some kind of oncoming bodily ailment of sorts. But I think that's the end of the video. I hope that you have learned something from that, and I look forward to doing another one for you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.